So I was told about the job a couple of weeks ago, and we've already had our pre-con meeting, talked with the builder to discuss details, and he gave us any information we needed to know as far as any changes and stuff. And I'm waiting on my plans to be redlined with all the notes that we took at the pre-con meeting. I typically don't have anything to do with setting up the pre-con meeting. That's usually done through our office and the builder, or sometimes the salesman and the builder. And usually a couple of weeks before the start date, I'll get an emailed invitation to attend the meeting. If I don't get an invitation for the meeting, then I call the office and ask them if we're going to have it and where it will be. Sometimes it's in our office, sometimes it's at the builder's office, and sometimes it might be on the job site. So a couple of things I look for. I look for the silt fence, and I document that it's not damaged anywhere so I can make sure that we don't damage it. And I make sure we have a porta-john on site and we have a soft pole with a meter, so we're ready to go. All right, 20 amp breakers and GFIs. And I make sure that we have a dumpster on site that's in a good location, which is the builder's responsibility. He's got this dump trailer here. I don't think this is his though. I'm not sure. I haven't seen this trailer before. He usually provides a regular dumpster. And I don't have my set of plans yet because they're still being redlined, and the office hasn't called me to come get them yet. So I usually stay in contact with the builder, and I know that he's got some progress done, so I just come by the job site to check on it to see how things are going. And the forms are stripped off the walls, and the plumber is here. The basement slab's been formed, and the plumber's here to rough in the plumbing today. He'll still get this dirt out of the garage area because it's got some trash in it. He's got his waterproofing done, and today he'll do a partial backfill to make the foundation a little more accessible for our framers. His graders are also going to be here today and do a partial backfill up against the basement walls wherever the engineer allows it to be done, to help us access the foundation a little easier and make for a safer job site. So at about this point, I'll go ahead and contact the framer and start including him on any conversations so that he can schedule his crew to get in here and hopefully get started quick so we're not holding up the show. As soon as they're ready for us, we like to get on it within a day or two. So when the office calls me and tells me my red line plans are ready, I'll go by and pick them up, and I'll get a start package, which will be a folder basically with information that I'm going to need in the folder, which will be the material list, the takeoff, the pink copy of the delivery tickets so I can see what's coming out on which truck. Usually we set them up in 3 deliveries: first floor wall, second floor wall, and roof pack. I'll also get floor layouts if they are trusses, open web, or I-joists. I'll get those layouts. I'll learn which vendor we're buying from so I'll know who my contact is if I have any issues. Usually the office will have set up the initial deliveries on everything, but it's up to me to check those dates and pay attention to the progress on the foundation and make sure we're ready to receive the deliveries, or I'll have to call the vendors and push everything back or move everything forward. Just depends on how things are going. I'll also get the safety placards to make sure we're OSHA compliant, and I'll post those visible on the job site. The builder is typically responsible to supply us with a foundation that's square, plumb, and level. so I technically don't have to check it. On a smaller house I might check it, but on a larger frame like this I probably won't check it. It's too difficult. It's all done by the surveyor anyway, so it's up to them to have everything pinned correctly. This house does have 2 steel beams that run front to back, so about all I can do here is to make sure our beam pockets are in the wall as they should be. There's one beam pocket and there's the second beam pocket, so they're there. And even though it's the builder's responsibility to provide us with square, plumb, and level, it doesn't hurt to just look down the walls, make sure things are parallel and everything looks 90. Everything looks good. All right, 2 days later. Some huge spiders around here. So the builder removed all the dirt that was in the garage because it was contaminated with topsoil and roots and stuff. So he's getting the garage backfilled. So in our wooden floor systems, we usually drop the shower 4 inches, but this shower in the basement's only dropped 2 inches. So I got to call into the builder to find out how much he wants us to drop our shower on the first floor system. So the plumber is finished roughing in the basement and inspected, and the slab prep is scheduled to be inspected today so they can pour on Monday. So I'm going to go ahead and relay that information to the framer to see if he's got a crew scheduled for next week, which will get us started a week early. So I called our warehouse, our lumber yard, to double check to make sure my first lumber drop could happen on the 22nd, and I also called the truss vendor because I need to make sure my trusses can be delivered at least 1 or 2 days after the basement walls are delivered, and unfortunately the trusses were not scheduled until the 30th and I can't get them moved any closer. So I got to break the news to everybody that we can't start this house a week early on the 22nd. We're going to have to wait till the week of the 27th. So I usually get a truss report emailed to me on a monthly basis, and normally I could have looked at my truss report, saw that the delivery date was on the 30th, and then tried to move them closer. But this is a situation where I tried to move them closer and couldn't do it because our vendor is booked up and says he cannot move my trusses any closer. So we're sticking with the start date of the 27th. And he started backfilling the front of the basement walls, and he says he's going to be done today. So that's the status update on this job. So today's Friday, and I have 6 more starts coming up, 2 next week and 4 the week after. So I'm going to go check on the status of those, make sure we're on go. So that's it for today here. All right, I am safely stopped with my flashers on to tell you that I've got about an hour drive to the next job site. All right, I'm at the next job site, and this is the footing of the next house we're going to start. This is one of them, one of 2 that we're starting next week. And here is the second one. These are really small houses. They had trouble with rock. They ran into a lot of rock on this one. This one gave them a hard time. They're supposed to be pouring the concrete on these this afternoon. Hopefully they will. And these are all small houses. There's about 25 of them that we did in 60 days. and there's another 35 coming up. And we're building these for the Catawba Indians. I'm on the Catawba Indian Reservation, and these are very small. They're 1,100 to 1,200 square feet. Probably the smallest houses I've ever built. Very simple. Well, I didn't realize it was already noontime, so they're getting ready to pour this footing now. And by the way, always send text messages or emails so that you have questions answered in writing. Always. So earlier on the lot, I talked about the start package, and I went by the office and I picked this one up. And this is basically just a visual of what I've already talked about. When you get your plans, make sure that they are a sealed set of drawings, sealed by the engineer, and make sure that you're working on the latest date code, and all that should match the county red stamped plans that are in the job box. Also make sure all the notes that you took at the pre-con meeting are written on these plans wherever they apply to, like on the floor plan, for instance. Also go over all the general notes, all the notes on the D pages or detailed pages. Get familiar with the structural pages, the S pages, and make sure you've got the layouts. Your last two pages should be the floor layouts. Now this is from the floor vendor, and the floor vendor's layouts with all the structural components and load points and things associated should match the structural pages on the plans, on the original drawings. If they don't, you need to make a phone call and find out why. Here's the first floor plan example, and you can see that you should expect to have all your notes that were taken from the pre-con meeting written on the plan, and other information like window rough openings should all be written on the plan, and door openings as well, and any special notes or things that you learned at the pre-con meeting that the builder might want done. And you can see, aside from the D pages and the S pages, that on the floor plan pages, you also have a lot of framing notes. You need to become familiar with all that. And here's the start folder I was talking about. On the front of the start folder, you're going to have your first lumber drop. That's a tentative date. The framer needs to know what this date is because it's basically his start date or the day after. And you also need to call the warehouse 3 or 4 days ahead of time to make sure the pink tickets or the order tickets have been put in and that we're on schedule for that delivery. And you'll get the truss vendor's name and number and a tentative date for deliveries, and you'll get the steel vendor's name and number with a tentative date for deliveries. And these are basically will call deliveries, along with the second and third or roof pack deliveries. That's will call as well. You have to keep up with the job and determine when you're going to need the next lumber deliveries, and give the warehouse a 2 or 3 day lead time so you get it on time. And so inside you'll have your safety placards that are required by OSHA. We post these on the job site, visible, easily visible. We get a window order sheet which has your rough openings, and you transcribe your rough openings from these sheets onto your floor plan. And very important, you have the scope of work. Be sure and read the scope of work because individual builders have different requirements and things they want done, and it should all be on the scope of work. Here I've got the individual truss drawings, and I should have a small copy of the layout, but I don't, but that's okay. It's on the back 2 pages of the plans. And then we have safety reports. We fill these out to satisfy OSHA requirements. And we also have on our tablet software that we can do the same thing. And we have a toolbox safety meeting, which you should go over all the safety protocols that the framers are required to follow. Check everything off as you talk about it and have the lead framer sign it. So I am missing a couple of things. The one thing I'm missing is the pink delivery tickets. The pink delivery tickets are important because it tells me what's coming out on which truck. First load, second load, roof pack, and it's usually color coded to make it easier to read. And I'm also supposed to have the material takeoff, material list. And as far as when you request a delivery, whether it be from our warehouse or any of the vendors, always do it via email so that you have a hard copy of the request, and follow it up later in the day with a phone call or the next morning with a phone call to make sure that the request was received, and check on their schedule to find out if it's going to deliver on the date requested. Get one of these, put it on your company card. You're going to need it. Okay, on the reservation job 2 days later. And these are the next 4 lots. They're grading them, cleaning them up. All right. I'm just leaving the house Friday morning. All right, just rolled up on the job site. And I'm here a little early because I have 2 trucks delivering today. And no one could tell me what time they would be here other than they would be here early this morning. And the builder got the slab poured, his gravel in, and we got a dumpster. And our basement slab, of course, is in. He's got the backyard all graded nice. This helps us out tremendously. And the front yard is graded as well. So this will be a good job site to get around on and get our material in here. And the builder's supposed to supply us with nuts and washers for the anchor bolts. Sometimes they're in the job box, but sometimes they leave them on the foundation somewhere. But I have not seen any, so I'll have to ask the builder for the nuts and washers. Friday, October 24th. We're having to add a white plate on top of the green plate for a little extra height because they sent 105s for the walls and they're just a little bit short. All right, Monday morning on the job site, and let's see what we got to deal with. And I think we might be going to get rained out today. I'm not sure if they'll show up. I hope they do. I have a delivery of open web floor trusses coming today, so I have to be here I'll make a phone call in about 30 minutes or so and see if I can get an ETA on the floor trusses. Alright, they finished up today Friday, and I believe they worked at least a half a day Saturday. I'm not sure what time they left Saturday, but they put a pretty good hurting on it. Alright, and it is starting to rain. The crew did show up this morning. They hung around for about an hour, but it started misting and drizzling, and now it's raining. So the crew has gone home for the day. And the open web floor trusses were supposed to deliver today, but they're not going to be here today. Also, the steel beams were supposed to deliver today, and they're not going to be here today either. Both are supposedly coming tomorrow, but it's also supposed to rain tomorrow, so we'll see what happens. On these open web floor trusses, they are top mount, top load, and we're going to be putting a lot of blocking in, and we're going to be covering up these anchor bolts, so you need to videotape the anchor bolts, walk all the way around the perimeter anywhere the top load floor trusses are going to be covering them up. You need to document that the bolts are in fact there for the builder and for the county inspector. And just a note, we are missing one right there. Got to have one within 12 inches of the break. Supposed to be two right here at the garage door lug with square washers, so we're missing one there. And we got a break right here that needs one on each side within 12 inches of the break. Just making a note, we can get these later. This is the garage wall. Oh, also here, a piece of green plate needs to have at least 2 bolts in it. We only have one here. 2 bolts, like that one. All right, Tuesday morning, and looks like we're probably going to get another rain day. I'm on the site. Looks like my fill-in order showed up, but it is raining, so I don't know how it's going to go today. We'll have to wait and see. And half of my fill-in ticket got delivered. Don't know where the rest of it is. Not sure why they make a trip up here and only bring half. And nothing's really changed from yesterday because we didn't get to work, and it's raining pretty good now. It's probably going to rain all day. Probably not going to get anything done today either. We'll see. I have to hang around up here for a while because I've got my steel beams are supposed to be here and my floor trusses are supposed to be here, and I have to stay here to direct traffic. All right.
I probably would just drop this one first and pull it back up and then deal with this side.
Make sure you get the layouts and the paperwork and any hardware. Well, it finally stopped raining, and I think we lost 2.5 days last week because of rain. And they're trying to get the floor finished up so they can start decking it today. And I had to go by the office this morning to get a glue gun for the Advantech foam glue. And incidentally, don't ever use anything but the Advantech foam glue for Advantech subfloor. You'll have problems. Anytime you drop anything off, photograph it so you got a record of it being on the job site. Always. And since my third box didn't come in, I'm going to have to inventory this and check it off my list of hardware to see what I'm missing. Always keep your vehicle and tell everyone else to keep their vehicle off the red mud. Stay on the driveway. Also, don't go near the neighbors' lots. Make sure nobody cuts that corner and gets on the neighbor's lawn. make sure nobody crosses the street backing out onto the neighbor's lawn. Also don't want to park across the street opposite anybody's driveway, and be sure and tell the crew. Make sure that doesn't happen. On my way into Dalton, got to pick up some hardware. Alright, I'm here at Dalton. I had 3 boxes of special order hardware supposed to come in. 2 of them came in, 1 of them didn't come in. They're supposed to call me when the 3rd one comes in, but they don't. So I have to check myself. Today's Tuesday, November 4, and I was not here yesterday. I was tied up on another job site. And we are double plated, braced off, and just about ready for the 2nd floor I-joist system, which is supposed to deliver today in about an hour. It's a little premature to start checking things, but I like to just look around as they're going up. They're up on the 1st floor. So I just kind of look around, make sure the job site's clean. Maybe spot check a couple of things. Right here, for instance, I got on the structural page 3 9¼ LVL headers, 2 jacks, 2 kings, and I've got cantilevered blocking. Let's just check quick to make sure that's there. Alright, we've actually got 3 jacks and 2 kings, so we got 1 extra. And there's our 3 9¼ LVL headers. And there's our cantilevered blocking. Or those are, I call them shear panels. They were supplied by the floor vendor. Sometimes we stick build that. Sometimes the floor vendor supplies them. Another thing to look at real quick, right in this area here, the shaded area, calls for diaphragm bracing or diaphragm blocking. And in this shaded area here also calls for the same thing. I'll take a look at that real quick. And yeah, there it is. It's 1, 2, 3 cells, 24 on center. They didn't need to go all the way back here, but they did, which is fine. That's on the right side of the house. And in this back left room, we have the same thing. It calls for 2 jacks, 2 kings. We got 3 jacks, 2 kings on each side, and we got the 9¼ LVL header tripled. And we've got the same shear panels at the cantilever. That's the reason those shear panels are there, because it's cantilevered. Also worth paying attention to right now is there's 3/4 paneling on the back side of that floor truss. This is fire blocking. In the basement, you have to fire block every 1,000 square feet of ceiling above. Has to be fire blocked, and it has to be blocked with 3/4, not 1/2 inch or 7/16. And there's a pretty major load point right here where the steel that runs front to back is bearing at this point here, and this steel that runs front to back is bearing at that point there. It's calling for 5 studs for support. And there's our 5 studs and cripples supporting the steel on the right side. And here it is on the left side. 5 studs, 5 cripples. And the reason those cripples are there is this design started out with 24-inch steel beams, but in order to get the mechanicals underneath or through the beam, rather than have an engineered hole in the beam, they resized the beam to a 12-inch beam. So it's a heavier beam, but not as tall. And that's why we had to cripple it right there. And here at the front of the house, you can just barely see the cripples that are in the stud pocket. You can't lay plates down flat to support a beam. You got to use cripples installed vertically. And there's the other beam pocket right there, and you can see the cripples supporting the beam. And on the 2x4 basement walls that are up against the concrete poured basement walls, we attach house wrap on the back side. That's to maintain a 1-inch airspace so the insulation doesn't touch the concrete. Also works as a vapor barrier, and it also needs to go up into the floor system, not just stop at the top plate or double plate. We always use a 24-inch rip of pressure-treated plywood along the outer lower perimeter of our walls, but in this case we used a full 48-inch sheet because when we stack our next piece of sheeting on the exterior wall, it'll go up, it'll go through the floor system and up onto the first floor walls by 16 inches. That will tie the first floor walls to the floor system and to the basement walls below. And this DTT2Z is not bolted down like it should be. It looks like they're coming back to do that later. This is an exterior corner in the basement, but we'll also have to add some squash blocks in the floor, in the corner of the floor right there. The butt joints in the plywood and the OSB sheeting, all exterior sheeting butt joints have to be blocked to maintain the nail pattern in the sheeting. And I'm looking at the strong back right here, this 2x6 strong back, making sure that the laps are correct and the nail pattern is correct and that there's no gaps between the strong back and the verticals. They have to be nailed tight. And any basement wall that happens to be load bearing like this one, where you have intersecting floor trusses that are loaded onto this wall, a load bearing basement wall also has to be bolted to the concrete. And I did not see these bolts, so we'll have to come back and add some 10-inch red heads to this wall, any load bearing wall in the basement. Now here's another section of your 3/4 inch fire blocking in the floor system, and that's not only isolating every 1,000 square feet, but it's required there as area separation because I'm standing in a room that's not going to be finished. So you have to separate the unfinished from the finished areas, or conditioned from unconditioned areas. And since the height of the steel beam was changed, it was shortened up, we ladder framed in between the floor trusses for sheetrock. And I just kind of scan around and look for dead wood, make sure there's dead wood for the ceiling in all the rooms. I look at the hangers and make sure there's a nail in every nail hole. And also, if there are shear nails, which are the angled nails, they have to be a minimum of 2.5 inches. And I'll come back later and make sure that the proper number of studs are being used here to load that header onto. So later on I'll come back and I'll check all these header sizes, all the number of jacks and all the number of kings, make sure they're correct per plan. And also this is a load point going through the floor, going through that ladder truss right there. And the easiest way to do that, later on I'll drop flags through the floor and make sure the load points are continuous all the way down to the foundation. And I'll do the whole house. And here's just a quick example. So on this 2x6 shower wall, it calls for 3 studs right here, 3 studs minimum. And that's because that's going to be a load point. And if I go over here and look, here's the 3 studs. And eventually at some point later on, I'll drop a flag through the floor and make sure that the load is continuous. Always make sure any openings are blocked by safety rails. Got one there. Got one on the front right here. And got one at the stairwell opening. Also make sure any temporary stairs have handrails. Alright, second floor I-joist showed up 3 days late. And make sure I get the layouts and any associated hardware from the driver. Alright, today's Thursday afternoon. Just making sure everybody's wearing their hard hats. They're getting the second floor deck. So this is the second floor pack lumber drop, but it's supposed to be the whole house because it's not raining, it's dry, and I thought I'd go ahead and get it all in here. I'll take my pink delivery tickets and sort of inventory everything and make sure everything is here. Also look for specific details, like for instance this builder uses Tech Shield on his roof. Make sure they delivered Tech Shield and not regular OSB. That happens from time to time. Here's some rafter material. Doesn't look like all of it though. I'll check on my tickets and see what's supposed to be here. Still too early to start checking things thoroughly, but I do like to look around. I also don't like working underneath them. They're up above me right now. It's not safe to be in certain areas of the house. For instance, right here, there's a 3-ply LVL. You can see the truss lock screws were installed. That's why it's important to have your truss lock screws and other hardware on site as they go, because it would have been very difficult to screw those 3-plies together with those I-joists in the way. And they've also got a stud pack right here to support that triple LVL. Just look around for stuff like that. I'll come back and check it later with the plants and make sure they have the proper number of studs in place. We also strap the stud packs top, middle, and bottom, and the straps are not on yet, so that's another thing I'll come back and look for later. And the smaller garage door headers also truss locked, and they got their straps in place. And I'll look for nail patterns in the headers and nail patterns in the jacks. All the Purline blocking is in to seal the butt joint and allow for the proper nail pattern in the exterior sheeting. 6 inches around the perimeter and 12 inches in the field. Also, just always take a minute and look at safety features. Make sure that the guards on the saw are working properly and are not wedged, and make sure that your extension cords are in good working order with the third ground plug. The plug on this saw doesn't require the ground plug. It's insulated body. And here's something you really need to watch out for. Double I-joists need to be packed solid in the middle. And make sure all your double joists are packed solid. Here's a note right here. Extend beam beyond pocket door header. Right here. This LVL should be extended past that corner. And they didn't do it. So that'll go on my punch list, and I'll have to get an engineer to tell us what to do right there, and hopefully there is a substitute for extending that beam. Probably have to add some squash blocks and a stud pack, but the engineer's got to tell me what to do. Can't just do what I want. Today's Monday, November 10, and they're finishing up the first floor ceiling joist. And got a couple of gable walls stood for the dormers. Alright, Wednesday morning, pulling up on the job site. November 12, I believe. And it looks like they're done with lot 52. Not quite started yet with the walls on 53. And the crew is not here yet. but it's a little early. They'll probably be here in a few minutes. And the superintendent let him use that lull to move this unit of 2x6 studs over here. So that's nice, but my fill-in, let me see if my fill-in got delivered. No, this is the OSB that was across the street, so I'm expecting more OSB to be delivered. I thought it would have been here by now, but apparently not. It's for the roof, so obviously they don't need it just yet. They have tall wall for the walls, for the wall sheeting. So I'm not gonna make any phone calls about it. I'll just wait, see if it shows up this afternoon. And if it doesn't show up this afternoon, I might make a phone call and see where it's at. Always lock your truck, no matter what kind of neighborhood you're in. Always make sure your toolbox stays locked. So it's still Wednesday. I left the reservation, got up here kind of late. Traffic was bad. Not much progress from the outside. There's a lot of work going on inside the house right now. Getting ready to start the roof. Now that they're up on the roof and I got the bottom level basement all to myself, I'll start my frame walk, and the first thing I do is I start with windows and doors. I check the overall dimensions and compare them to the order sheet, and I check the center lines, make sure that they're where they belong. If this were a bigger house, I might have started doing this when they were up on the second floor. So 38 1/4 by 82 5/16. The center line, 12 feet, 9 3/4 off of this corner. First, I mark the center. If it's correct, I put the C in it. Any exterior door that swings, we typically put a 3/4 inch piece of pressure treated threshold down. So I take my rough height and I add that 3/4. They didn't do that here, but they put a double 2x6 up there, so they're gonna have to remove that 2x6 and replace it with a piece of 3/4 board. When I check it, I mark the hinge side. So they're gonna have to remove that 2x6 to give me 83 inches in height, and they don't have it. So this gets pink. It means there's a problem. So even though I'm only focusing on windows and doors, when I notice something obvious, I go ahead and check it. And there's an OSB brace wall right here, but it's not done. So I'm gonna go ahead and write that up. So I highlight it pink on the plans, and I put it on my punch list under my basement. Right there. All right. Next is 108 by 60 and 7 feet off of this corner to the center. And half of 108, 54. I just marked the center. And in this case, since the window is centered in the room, I like to check and make sure that both sides are the same. And if the center line is correct, put the letter C in there. And if the overall size is correct, I always write it on the right-hand side. So the size is correct and the center line is correct. gets green. Next up is the slider. Sliders don't get anything added to the threshold. So I just check the width and the height. 141, it's a 1/2 inch big, but I'm going to leave that alone. I'll go ahead and mark the halfway, half of 141, and mark the center line. And the center line of the slider is 8 feet 6, butted to the framing. So if it's correct, and it is, and only if it's correct, I'll mark it with the center mark. So the size is correct, so it gets green, and the center mark is correct. So I just highlight what I referenced to find the center line. And again, mark the right jack. .24, mark the center. And check the center line, 3, 2, and an 8. And it's good, so we get the C. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on the inside too, so that it doesn't get covered up when we house wrap. And the overall is correct. All right, I finished checking the windows and the daylight wall, and I'm being interrupted, so I'm gonna pause this for now. And the dimension on this window, I went ahead and center lined it, but it's important to check this dimension and this dimension to make sure they're the same. That's if it's centered in the room and centered to the framing. Thursday, November 13. We got the gables built, setting up some scaffolding and starting to put some ridge poles up. Diaphragm blocking. One, two, 3 bays installed on the right side of the house. Not here on the left side of the house. They haven't done it yet. Fire block. Blocking is missing. Need to block daylight. Got a 3-ply 9 1/4 LVL header, 2 jacks, 2 kings on each side. As far as the jacks and kings, I go ahead and mark both sides because sometimes they differ. Showing 2 studs and 2 squash blocks right beside that window. And the cantilever blocking, or in this case, shear panels. Up there. LVLs are there. 2 jacks, 2 pings are there. This note doesn't pertain to me. This note doesn't pertain to me. And this note doesn't pertain to me. Next day, Friday, the 14th. Today's Monday. They're finishing up jack rafters and running fascia board. They still have one offset build over roof on the back porch they got to build. So these 2 little houses did finally finish up. The framer was a little slow on these. He's got the houses swept out, blown out, cleaned up. The punch lists are done, and the leftover material is stacked for return. And you need to try to get the material picked up as quickly as possible, because other subcontractors will come in here and start picking through it, throwing their trash on it, or it's in their way, so they start moving it. And so you need to get it picked up as quickly as possible. I send an email and I attach everybody, and I attach photographs of the material stacked. That's proof that it was stacked. A week later, I'll send a follow-up email and ask to get the material picked up again. And after that, I'm done with it. My job's done. Today's Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and we're just now getting started on sheeting the roof. We're behind a little bit. We had rain yesterday. We did get some hours in and managed to work a little bit, but it was pretty slow and dangerous to be on the roof. The guys are required to wear fall protection, of course, and that window right there should have fall protection in it as well. Always make sure the guys working on the roof are tied off properly with their harnesses. This engineer's calling out for LS50s on the jack rafters. The rafters connected to the structural ridges also have to have L50s on one side. And the front porch offset roof is a stick built valley, but the back porch offset roof is a build over, and you can't flip flop them. If it says build over, make it a build over. If it says valley, make it a valley. Make sure they got that correct. Anywhere you have an EWP header or a header with 2 jacks or more, drill holes in the floor. Go down below and check for the squash blocks. Make sure it's squash blocked through the floor, down through the wall, and all the way down to the foundation. Leave the flags in the floor. That way the builder and the inspector for the county and the engineer inspection makes it easier for them to check it. Anywhere you got a hip rafter coming down into a corner like that, we'll add an extra block underneath the hip to support it at the heel. Be sure to check that all the T's are nailed in the whole house. A lot of framers skip this because they're in a hurry and it's on their punch list. But you got to make sure that it gets done. 9 inches. And speaking of nail patterns, make sure you got 2 nails every 16 inches in all your jacks. This is more than enough. Sometimes they'll take the fall protection out of the windows to get the OSB into the house to put on the roof. Make sure they put the fall protection back. 3 jacks called out holding up this bent beam construction. Check the bolt pattern, make sure it's the proper number and size of bolts. Properly bracing the double LVL ridge pole above. And these valleys are ledgered onto the ridge pole along with bolts. Make sure the bolts are the correct size with the correct bolt pattern. Look for 2-ply and 3-ply beams in the ceiling. Make sure the proper number of cripples are in place, loading the beams down onto the LVL below for support. When I come back and do a structural walkthrough, I make sure all the triples or double beams are in place. These will typically have a T-brace on top of them that go up to the ridge pole or valley or another support point in the roof system. It's not installed yet, but job's not finished yet. And they've stocked some of the Tech Shield up here on the second floor. They covered it up because of the rain yesterday. Got to make sure your Tech Shield doesn't get wet. The foil will delaminate. And when I frame walk, I check all the Tech Shield, make sure there's no damage to any of the foil surfaces and no delamination. If there is, we have to tape it up. And this valley rafter needs another cripple in here for support. And we'll probably put one and catch the heel right here and brace it down here for additional support. And this little soffit in the stairwell, we still need to block the OSB butt joints here, but we also need to fire block that. This area is of course not finished. We still need to build a false wall right here and come down, and it gets some sort of a plant shelf or something right here. And on this offset on the front of the house, we're still missing the collar ties and the rafter ties, which are braces that brace that knee wall down to the ceiling joist. This ridge pole is loaded onto that double rafter, which is crippled down to a triple beam. So it's supported correct, but we still need the rest of the bracing in this attic. Just make a note of things like this so you know to come back to them and check them later. On your exterior walls, check for vibration. I usually use a rubber mallet. I don't have it with me right now. Checking for vibration to make sure the OSB's nailed off properly. Anywhere you have a shiner, this should be backed out so that on the outside of the house you can see that missed a stud, and go back and put the nail in before you house wrap. Also on this gable end, where it comes down and your two plates break right there, we'll put a mechanical connection from there down into the ceiling joist area. We'll either use a metal strap or 2x4 blocking. So right now there's a lot of things still not done because they're trying to get the roof sheeted before any more bad weather comes in. So they're kind of racing towards the roof, which is good, but they leave a lot of punch work behind. So I don't really mark anything in the house because they know of most of these items, and I'll give them a chance to finish it up before I start marking the house up. But I will make a note on my plans, probably put a pink spot right there to make sure I come back and look at it later. We typically get detail sheets on all the appliances and bathroom fixtures, etc. that go into a house, but I know the builder told me these are all going to be center drain tubs and showers. So I check to make sure the drain is not on top of a floor truss. If it's on top of the floor truss, you can't just drill the truss, you have to move it. So I check for all the drains to make sure there's plenty of clearance so the plumber doesn't damage our open webs. Alright, today's Monday. They got the sheeting finished over the weekend. At this stage of the game, before the house wrap goes on, make sure all your windows have been checked, center lined, and dimensionally to make sure all the rough openings are correct and in the right place. And the house wrap guys are here. They're using button caps, but they're also using staples, which is okay as long as it's the correct staple. Otherwise, they need to adhere to the nail pattern in the house wrap recommended by the manufacturer. Also, check with the builder before the house wrappers show up and ask if he wants the windows cut out. A lot of builders don't want the windows cut out. Even if the windows are delivered and installed, sometimes all of the windows don't show up. So it's a good idea to leave the house wrap over the windows. Let the window installers cut the house wrap out, not the framers. Okay, this door, they call them for a 2.6 door, but that's unusual going into a bedroom. We got it framed for a 2.8. The builder said to leave it 2.8, so that's happening. I haven't checked any of these LVLs yet. So I'm going to go ahead and check those real quick, and second floor will be about done as far as checking it. Still got to do the roof bracing though. Here's that double LVL with a triple 2x8 on top of the wall. That's another triple 2x8 on top of the wall. There's the triple 2x8 going down the center of the room, and that's a triple 2x8 on top of the wall. There's your double 2x8 going side to side. And there's your triple 2x10 running front to back. They still need to put the triple down to that LVL header. All right. That's there. That's there. I gotta go check, make sure these 3 studs are there. No, they're there, I remember. All right, and so here's that 2-ply 11 7/8 LVL going side to side. Here's your 3-ply 2x8 on top of wall. Another 3-ply 2x8 on top of wall. This is the 3-ply 2x8 in the center of the room, and the other 3-ply 2x8 on top of wall. And this is the 3-ply 2x10 where they're missing the cripples right there, so I'll mark that pink. So when you're checking the elevations, you're going to go by the elevation pages, but also look at the rendition and make sure they match, because sometimes there's discrepancies and you'll need to talk to the builder about that. So I'm going to walk around the house now and check the elevations, make sure all the returns, all the bump outs, all the small details are correct. And the windows and doors showed up a day early. So it's still too early to walk the house, but just walk around and look at things, observe things, take notes, places where you need some straps right there. Places where you're missing dead wood. Right there at the ceiling. Just kind of make notes to yourself. It'll help you frame walk the house a lot quicker. This pocket door is framed for a 2.8 pocket door, but the plan said it's supposed to be a 3.0, so we're going to have to replace that LVL header. Unfortunately, that's a point load above the header, so that stinks, but it happens. And also that number 20, that's the door that's framed wrong. They framed it for a 2.8 pocket door. It's supposed to be a 3.0 pocket door. So we got to change that header. They're not through building this shear wall. The wall is there, but they haven't sheeted it yet. And I've still got to go in and check stud locations where it calls for 2 studs or more. I've still got to check all that, and I'll drop point loads through the floor, drill holes in the floor, drop flags, so I can check to be sure all the point loads go all the way down to the basement, to the foundation. So as I check things, I highlight the plans, green if it's good, pink if there's a question or a problem. And by highlighting the plans, by process of elimination, it leaves me with notes that I need to go back and look at. So here's the first floor plan. You can tell I'm just about done, but you can see here like where I highlighted in green this window size. That means I've checked that window. You look here, I checked the header, but I did not check the window size. Same with right here. But you can see the first floor is just about completely checked off. Got a couple of areas where it's calling out for stud packs. They're not checked off, so I need to go back and look at them. And here's the second floor, same thing. I've got some stud packs I need to go back and look at. But it's pretty close to being checked off. Today's Thursday, December 4. They're getting ready to brace the attic. They haven't started bracing the attic yet, other than some temporary stuff. And the windows are all in basically. The doors are not in yet. They're building the ceiling and the stairwell. And we got to build the attic platform. And that's about the biggest stuff. And then clean up and get the return material inventoried and send a ticket in to get that picked up. But we're just about done, except for there'll be some small punch out, probably some changes. And we've also lost about 7 or 8 days due to some circumstances. One being rain, and I won't go into the other. All right, December 8th, chilly start this morning. All right, pulling up on the job. Looks like the dumpster needs to be emptied. Looks like my lumber's stacked. I'll have to get out and count that, do a return ticket. The framers are not here. And I got a feeling they won't be here. Not likely that they'll be here. Technically, we're finished with the house. Except I'm sure that there will be some punch out. It's important that we don't leave anything that the trades will need done. We try not to anyway. So this is the return stack. I'm supposed to count this and send an email to the appropriate people to get all this stuff picked up as soon as possible. Now I'll go through my plans and look at all the highlights and check all the pink highlights to make sure those items got done. And the only thing I've got left to do is to check the roof bracing. Haven't done any of that yet. This stoop roof looks like all the hardware's in place, but I'll have to check it. It's flat locked. The ledger board is flat locked to the wall. And the rafters have the A35 brackets on them. The hangers, everything looks good. But it's dark out right now, and I might go in with the flashlight. The house is boarded up, secured. The plans show this garage house wall as a shear wall, so that's why we sheeted it with OSB. But this builder also likes us to sheet that wall so he can secure the house. Right now we've got it temporarily boarded. That's the door right there, boarded up. And the garage is cleaned up fairly decent. I'll grab that box of hardware right there, throw it on my truck. So a couple of days ago I checked the roof bracing, and I do it just like I do the rest of the house. Anything pink is not there. These valley braces are missing. This valley brace is missing. These other pink items are missing. This small hog trough is missing. So I take a picture of this and I send it to the framer. We always use 2x6 for our T-braces. And if the braces are over 14 feet tall, we brace at midpoint laterally with another 2x6 brace. Make sure all the T-braces are built out of 2x6s, and make sure both members are 2x6. Don't use 2x4 and 2x6. Also make sure that the T-braces are in place, but also that they're braced down to the exact location that it calls for. In this case, it's in a T on a wall. This case here, it's on a beam below. Just make sure the braces are in place and that they're braced down to where they're supposed to. And the framer's already made these corrections, so I can go ahead and highlight this stuff in green. And the house is completely checked now and ready for the engineer's walkthrough. Here this morning for the engineer's walkthrough. Alright, I'm at the office. It's January 2nd. The job's been done for a while. The trades are about finished. So I'm picking up the layouts, a clean copy and a clear folder for the building inspector to leave in the job box. Looks like this. And make sure before you leave the office that you've got the first floor, second floor, and the roof and the individual drawings. Make sure it's all there. So we've been gone 3 or 4 weeks, but we did come back and put the posts in. I coordinate with the builder when he wants this done, because it depends on when his slab goes down. These posts get a masonry pedestal built around the bottom, but this builder wants the posts to bear all the way down on the concrete, not just on the pedestal. There's a detail on the plans that show it, so that's the way we're doing it. Ask the builder where he wants you to leave the layouts, either in the job box or if he's got a work table inside the house, that's where I'm leaving these layouts. And I do a post-trade walk after the trades are finished. Make sure they haven't cut anything, or make sure I don't have to move anything or change anything. I've really been watching this house as the trades have been here. Put the returns in and moved joists or ceiling joists as needed. In this case, there really weren't any. We try to take care of it ahead of time.